Hey everyone, I'm Raina Harper, and welcome to EveRe-Watch Way, where I podcast a spell that takes a hold of you. For the show where I reminisce and recap the Nickelodeon fantasy series Every Which Way. We cover each episode of the show, and I go into detail on everything related to what happens with the show, what I remember from keeping up with it in 2014 and 15, and all the fun knowledge that I can bring in with it. Last time, we had our first episode covering the series premiere, the episode Discovery. I certainly thought it had plenty of fun to start things off, and I hope you did too. So we prove this time that things will immediately get even crazier. We have loads more hijinks and get the ball rolling on more of the characters, and Maddie with her let's just get into it. I'm so excited to talk about Season 1, Episode 2, The Big Rescue. This one was released on Thursday, January 2nd, 2014, a day after the first episode, which was on New Year's Day. So, with all the earth-shattering shakeups to everything they knew about the previous day, and especially in Emma's room that night with all the magical escapades, Emma and Andy are reeling from it at the breakfast table. Emma is clearly not ready for the responsibility and implications of having magic powers / being a witch, especially after not being able to manifest any more weird occurrences. She's attempting to argue to Andy that they both hallucinated the brush popping into her hand, and that the movers left the plastic hearts in her closet, but Andy's unmoved, and suggests that Emma should instead be excited. Emma's father, Francisco, I neglected to mention last episode that he and Emma relocated to the area because he'd gotten a job as a math teacher at Emma's new school. He calls out for her and Andy to make sure that they're ready to leave for school, meaning that he let them have a leisurely sleepover on a school night. Gets a lot of cool dad points right out the bat. Going to school with the real possibility of uncontained magical spectacles happening in front of everyone, that possibility now hitting her, it frightens Emma, but Andy comforts her. She calls out the potential for magic to be superpowers to elevate her social standing. And her best friend too, of course. Maddie, meanwhile, can't get the new girl Emma out of her head, attested to by a dream she had of Emma continuously pouring smoothies on her head in wickedness alongside Daniel. His refusal to get back with her, or even to answer any e-messages. Gosh, I missed this time of knockoff tech lingo. This particular line made me laugh. Also, when Ursula suggests that Maddie send him an e-musical medley with the romantic songs, I'd never heard of those. Does anyone know what that's referring to? Maddie pulls the best face in saying, "I should have thought of that," giving a great Josh Peck impression. And then Ursula tries to mimic Maddie's excitement and doesn't come across as weird at all. "You're going to make a fantastic witch," says Ursula, and Maddie takes great offense to that label, as her mom has still neglected to inform her to this point. So, she's dragged to the couch as her mom lays it all on her. There's genuine witch powers in the Van Pelt family. Maddie scoffs at this idea, saying the first line I ever heard from this show in promotional materials. Witches? Please. She immediately leaves for school, but not before Ursula plants the seed in her head that she, quote, needs to rhyme, to spell. She's real proud of herself for that one. Mac, Diego, and Daniel of the Sharks meet up in the hallway with a crisis on their hands. A math test in Mr. Alonso's class which threatens to tank Mac or Diego's grades, and thus their eligibility for the swim team. And they can't compete without a full team. If they'd been able to study properly without Maddie constantly ringing Daniel the night before, they wouldn't be in this situation. At least maybe. And so they need to plot to get extra time. They quickly shut up when they realize someone's coming, though. The worst possible someone. And someone I truly can't wait to talk about. We meet the school's principal, played by Michelle Verdi, right here. And subtlety, frankly, isn't a word that's entered her mind, nor anyone's mind in association with her, in her entire life. Her status as the main antagonist of this season is plainly signposted. And the sign, is a 10-story neon sign. We get a creepy shadow on the lockers to introduce her before she even comes into frame. It may even be a magic creepy shadow, we don't know yet. She catches a snippet of them in the act of their scheming, forcing them to make up a clumsy lie, and she gleefully points at them while she slowly says that they're donezo if any of them so much as a single slip-up. The sharks are on the extinction list. A gesture of hers shoves them out of the way as she walks off. Principal Torres, I think we later find out her name is. She may have a scheme going on. Do you get that impression? One that's many layers deep, unlike her character presentation right here. And I love it. We'll find out soon that she has a lot of schemes cooking in ways that don't quite make sense, considering her objectives. She just got to be the bit of being as obviously evil as possible, wrecking students' lives in very unsubtle ways. But we'll get to it. Another thing I noticed, and that my cousin remarked on when she's watched this show, is that every scene is super short. There are loads of scenes that are just 30 or 45 seconds long, which then transition into another short scene covering a completely different character storyline. I feel as though there could have been less awkward pacing with fewer character jumps, even if there were just as many time jumps. Stay with a character for longer and make it less choppy. But maybe now that I think about it, the editors and executives were just working with the data they had about the attention span of us then young viewers. I certainly wish it were paced better though, especially with how much information is being thrown at us so quickly. Andy and Emma enter the restroom and they're playfully ribbing each other, trying to keep an upbeat attitude in the whole uncertain air over the magic they've just discovered, which might just be why the previous episode is called Discovery. Think about that one. Emma goes into a stall, and Andy just leaves right after they got in. Maybe that's typical behavior? I don't know. About 0.5 seconds after Emma shuts the stall door, the three Panthers walk in, commenting on Maddie's story of her morning and what her mom told her about witch powers being passed down in the family. It is crazy, they say, the notion of witches existing, but there may be something to it after they witness Maddie say something about Katie's hair turning blue, and then it actually did. Hearing this, Emma gasps in shock and horror from inside the stall, having kneeled on the toilet seat to keep her legs from being visible, at the idea of someone who's been so abusive towards her having magical powers as well, as if she weren't horrifying enough just as a normal human. The Panthers decide that they should try what her mom suggested of making up a rhyme to make a spell work, even though, as Katie says, that would be really cliche. Calling that out doesn't actually make it charmingly meta. And Maddie, deciding that her first one that she tries should be to make Katie's feet grow massive, tries to come up with a rhyme for feet, but can't think of one. Emma, herself without thinking, suggests street from her hiding place inside the stall. Ooh, good one, Maddie replies before realizing that they should be alone, and she discovers Emma cowering and clearly spying on them from Maddie's perspective. Hi guys, she sheepishly says. Meanwhile, in solving their problem of needing to study more before the end-of-day test in Mr. Alonzo's class, the Sharks decide to implement an idea which Tony, the magic-loving kid, gave them, creating a commotion in chemistry class with a stinky gas concocted from chemicals, which will delay the test. It's necessary in their minds to make sure none of their grades drop too low, having seen just how psychotically unreasonable the principal is. But Tony decides to bargain with the team. He'll help them with the plan in exchange for them supporting him and becoming a member of the swim team himself, or when he tries enlisting them to be his support for an upcoming magic show, and they clearly nope out of that one. We cut after that back to the confrontation in the restroom. You see what I mean about super quick scenes and being choppy in its presentation of them? Emma tries to play dumb about what she heard, which only plays well with Sophie, of course, which, predictably, only plays well with Sophie, but then she tries to play off the suggestion of rhyming by rushing through one. The word on the street is Katie has gigantic feet. Sophie tries to alert Maddie that this rhyme had made an actual spell come true, and Katie's feet suddenly do grow, but Maddie doesn't listen at first, saying that she has lives to ruin, one in particular. But then they all realize what happened and scream. In chemistry class, Daniel, Andy, Mac, Diego, and Tony put their smoke plan into action, in a scene that displays Mac as being the equivalent ignorant comic relief character for the Sharks as Sophie is for the Panthers. When Daniel suggests they back off from the plan, the others say he has no right to, given that his girlfriend Maddie exhausted them out of studying the night before. He insists that the two of them are done for good this time, but no one's inclined to believe it. Andy texts Emma the good news of Daniel and Maddie's breakup, but it shows up on Emma's phone at the most inopportune time. Maddie snatches her phone and is enraged even further by the gleeful discussion of her misfortune. It's all the more proof that she needs that Emma is trying to steal her boyfriend. More cross-cutting happens between these two events, which is starting to become more variable given the goal of increasing the tension between these two things. The Sharks create their smoke cloud in class, which quickly grows out of control and spreads to the entire school, including the restroom, where it interrupts Maddie's berating Emma and causing all of them to break for the door. But the three Panthers decide to hold the door shut with all their might to keep Emma from leaving. This is the bullying stuff of nightmares. Even in an emergency, their number one priority is making sure Emma suffers, exemplified when Katie insists on Maddie casting a spell to accomplish this, so she improvises one that puts numerous padlocks on the door, trapping Emma and freeing them to leave knowing that Emma being trapped is taken care of. They're straight up evil, which Maddie is self-aware of, and she says that later on, to her credit, I guess. As she says here, she once shaved off Andy's eyebrow during class and sent cancellation cards to everyone invited to Andy's birthday parties, twice. But still, Maddie insists, she has no right to lie about Daniel and I, which is a rhyme right there, but nothing comes of this one. Which really, the most innocuous rhymes have caused volatile spells earlier, so this definitely should have caused something to happen to Andy, keeping her from lying, maybe, like in Liar Liar. That would have been fun as a little escapade. But don't worry, there are more than enough escapades like that later on to make up for it. The smoke reaches numerous places throughout the school, including Mr. Alonzo's class, where he has everyone evacuate to the outside. Gigi starts musing that she needs to get out of there, and Mr. Alonzo is genuinely concerned that she's freaking out, but she quickly just clarifies that she wants to get the scoop of the story behind the smoke for her social media pages. Charming, Gigi. Outside, Mr. Alonzo worries about his daughter and asking around if anyone has seen her, and this prompts Daniel to rush back inside, worrying that Emma might be at imminent risk. And here, we get yet another glorious scene for the ages, in my book at least. In the haze of smoke, Daniel shouts out for Emma, and she makes herself known inside the restroom. Daniel sees her jiggle the door, struggling to get out, and is immensely confused to see all the locks on the door, and even more so when she makes clear that she was unaware of the locks being there, as they'd have to have been mysteriously installed lightning quick. As if by magic, I bet the thought is in the back of his mind. Then, he tells her to back up as he's going to try and ram down the door, to which she inexplicably feels so embarrassed that she says no to it. Come on, Emma, you see this on TV all the time. Oh my god, slow down with the meta jokes already. Daniel backs up to get a running start, but Emma decides the best thing to do is to cast a spell to get her away. Now? And you're doing this out of embarrassment? She's just that flighty around Daniel, I guess. So this spell causes Emma to teleport away, and the place that she lands is the swimming pool on the school grounds. I can't wait to get into how this is a series-long running bit, her being unable to teleport anywhere else, no matter how much her magic skills progress. Once Daniel breaks open the door in one go, past 10 padlocks, wow, that's impressive, he finds Emma isn't there, furthering his confusion. Then, he gives the single best bit of acting in the show so far, as he gives an immense wince of pain in his shoulder from the action hero move he just performed. When Daniel reports back to everyone that he found Emma, but then didn't, more confusion ensues. Then Emma's father is about to call in a report of her missing to the police, before she walks up to the group, all wet. Her friends and father are glad she's okay, with Maddie trying to cover up the explanation of it in an exaggerated way. Emma says that she just somehow ended up in the pool, and the principal posits that she walked there and fell in a daze, and Daniel's contention, which he voices, is that the pool is 20 yards away. Not that she just vanished with no possible way in which she could have exited the room that he knew for a fact that she was just in as he rushed it. I bet every episode is going to have a scene that just gets my goat like this, huh? Later, Maddie gets frustrated with Katie about saying that Daniel clearly likes Emma, and casts a spell to turn her hair red, which indeed happens. In a moment that never seems to happen again, Maddie instantly tries to make nice with Katie and keep her calm before she notices what happened to her hair, whereas she normally wouldn't be conscientious enough to care. Hey, I just rhymed myself. Do I have witch powers that make something happen? No? Okay. One can dream. I suppose we could chalk this one up to Maddie just being flighty about her status as a witch. The principal instantly suspects the sharks of causing the smoke. She says those words exactly. And Tony acts the most cartoonishly suspicious that one possibly can, saying that he has the right to remain silent and singing the national anthem to affirm his rights. The sharks shush him up, but the principal makes an ultimatum that they must confess, or else the entire class is flunked, which she proclaims with yet another giant grin. After school, Andy goes to Emma's room and starts making a collage from Emma's supplies. Emma's really rubbing off on this tough exterior of Andy's, but Emma has more important things to report. In doing an amazing and caricatured impression of Maddie, she recounts what she overheard. Daniel is mine. I'm a witch. And so she and Andy ponder the implication of someone so awful having powers, and what she might know about Emma. If she knows about the existence of magic, the Panthers are simultaneously discussing the same thing. And when Ursula comes in and notices Katie's red hair, she declaims that she should stop experimenting with it, since, and she says this with the stereotypical 3 snaps of the fingers, not everyone can work a red fro. Oh, Ursula. Once it's apparent that this is the result of Maddie's magic, and not wanting the knowledge to spread, Ursula kicks Katie and Sophie out, and makes Maddie resolve to learn from her the proper ways of being a witch, refining her skills and hiding her power level until the proper moments. What Maddie is really thinking about, though, is getting back together with Daniel, and she makes incessant pleas for Daniel to get back with her. She's his penguin, since they'll be together forever, as she says. Daniel says no once again in an annoyed tone, before joining the rest of the sharks in their next task, rushing to take the fall for the smoke. The smoke-ageddon, as Gigi calls it when she live streams Tony going up to the principal's office, reporting on his impending confession. When Tony arrives, though, Andy has already said she is responsible. In turn, Mac, Tony, and Diego rush in, leaving the principal amused. They're all wanting to say that they're the one who did it. You think I won't punish anyone after your sadly noble display. I'm paraphrasing what the principal says here. Ursula tries to teach the Van Pelt family history to Maddie, but she declares it's boring. In order to try and get Maddie back on side, her mom lays out her plans. Get the Hexerin, which is the book of spells owned by the Chosen One, so that they could figure out how to steal the Chosen One's powers for Maddie during the upcoming eclipse. This is the only time that any witch can steal that any other witch can steal the Chosen One's powers, as she says, which I'm sure will be explained more later. And more than that, since Maddie doesn't seem to be interested, given that she already has powers, Ursula says that the powers Maddie has currently are very limited, and there's far more she can do than change Katie's hair color if she had the Chosen One's powers. They're in luck with finding the Hexerin, though, because as Ursula says, it's rumored to now be located with another witch in Miami. Might I ask, rumored by whom exactly? What magical news sources does Ursula regularly have access to? She doesn't have powers herself, at least at this point, and I don't know what magical friends she would have to listen in through the grapevine. At least no people like that show up in the series, to my recollection. We'll find that out together, won't we? But at least Maddie is ready to get her evil on, as she says. They start practicing spells, and Maddie is reminded about the importance of rhyming, but she doesn't quite get it yet again, trying to rhyme phone with phone, and then just goes into one of her cheerleading routines. For the final bit of the episode, Andy and Emma go for figuring out how to cast spells in a predictable way, for which Andy sets out ground rules for herself being the guinea pig. No crazy hair, no giant facial features, and she realizes she knows Emma too well, no sequined pants. So Emma gets going. Andy has purple sneakers. And then, Andy has sequined pants. She does a good job ribbing Andy there. She's waving a toy wand and forgetting what she just learned through the bathroom experience about rhyming, not to mention that was the commonality of the spells the night before. But I don't blame her, I guess, for suppressing those things, which she would treat as rather traumatic. But then she remembers it, the rhyming aspect, and Andy is reluctant to imitate that, or anything associated with Maddie for that matter, but they give it a shot. Stand back, Emma says. She makes up a rhyme for a spell to turn Andy into a goat, and it works perfectly. Yay! This goat starts walking around on her bed, even having Andy's trademark purple hair extension. This is, however, at the exact moment Francisco approaches and knocks on the door, calling them for dinner. Uh-oh. This is the typical cliffhanger, nail-biting ending that was designed to leave us hooked, as I hope you are to continue as well, as this episode of EveRe-Watch Way reaches its end. We'll pick up next time with episode 3, The Big Chill. Thanks so much for listening, and it's been amazing to do this show and hear everyone's feedback thus far. I hope you've enjoyed what you hear, so leave a comment, rating, and a follow or subscription on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on my pages on Facebook and Instagram. Search EveRe-Watch Way, EveRe-Watch Way. I look forward to growing this show further and hearing from you, so share it around with fellow fans and people you know. Thanks again for listening, and best magical wishes.